All right, so this is the February 25th meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. Do a roll call for attendees.
Chair Wojciechowski,
Here.
Commissioner Stevens,
Here.
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Scott,
I'm here.
Commissioner Hammond,
Present.
Commissioner Roughton,
Here.
Commissioner Bockert,
Here.
alternate Quarterneck, Council Liaisons Clark, Council Liaison Giuliani, Commission Liaison Broyles, Commissioner Rubis,
Here.
alternate Adams. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Sounds great. So I'll just my remarks is thanks for everybody for attending again. Appreciate you being here. The next meeting is going to be a longer meeting, but this one looks like it's fairly straightforward. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the January 28th meeting.
I move we accept the minutes as distributed.
Moved by Jan, second by
Second.
Alan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any public comments, Joe?
There are no attendees on the Zoom webinar, and we did not receive any written comments prior to tonight's meeting.
Okay.
Chair, I'll take that opportunity to excuse myself from the meeting. Have a good night, you all.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Travis.
For getting this rolling.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Travis.
Okay, so we got three items. Well, we got old business, 4 items ready for action. One is the location of the Orville historic marker. So this is the last marker, right? So we're almost there.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are. And with your permission, I'll do a brief report on the memorandum.
That was good.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, as you know, in October of 2020, we spent a beautiful fall afternoon out on Etherton Road looking at locations for the last of the historic community markers. Ultimately, 3 locations were chosen as potential candidates for that marker location. And ultimately, the department recommended 1 be chosen. It's on the east side of Etherton Road, south of the new bridge that was constructed by the city of Wildwood. The department provided to the commission members a concept plan for that location. And the commission approved that location with the caveat that the 2 owners of property most impacted by the placement would be notified and provided an opportunity to offer comments. The department, as part of the memorandum that's in the packet for tonight's meeting, provided to you the letter that was sent to the 2 property owners. It did have their names, specific names and et cetera on it. The one I provided to you was the form letter that was utilized for that purpose. Also, again, the department attached the concept plan for the location. As of tonight, I've not heard from the 2 owners. And so from that perspective, I think we've provided the opportunity to offer comment. And now the department would like to proceed with getting bids for the work and then providing those bids to the Historic Preservation Commission for a selection of contractor. And I would like to think that by April, we can begin the work. Mr. Chair?
Did you have any comments from Rick as far as that design, or did he have any comments on how it was laid out?
No, sir, he did not. And again, I'll verify that, but as you know, I had the design firm review it, and one of the key issues was site distance. But as you remember, this is a pretty, it's an unencumbered stretch of Etherton Road. And given the fact that we're on the east side of the road, you know, that southbound traffic as it crosses the bridge, which is a little higher than the approaches to either end, I think we've addressed any concerns, but I will verify again.
Unmute myself, then muted it again. So I entertain a motion to send this on and continue the bidding process for this. So moved by Jim, second by Chris. I'll do Chris. Your hands both went up at the same time.
That's fine.
All in
I
favor?
was seconded.
Aye.
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 We're ready to go, Joe.
So, Mr. Chair, with your permission and the commission members, although we have a lengthy meeting scheduled for March, I probably would like to have this on the agenda. So if we do have the 3 bids or 2 bids, whatever we end up with, we could take that final action.
Does anybody have any objections to that? I think we need to get that. We need to get that done, and hopefully this spring. So it shouldn't take that long, I wouldn't think.
No, I concur, sir.
So I just have one clarification, Joe, just to be. So we've got the marker and we have the post, and it's sitting in Golly's yard, I guess, or stored away. And this will be to put that pull out together. Will it be to install the sign also?
Mhm. Yes, sir. Glenn's done Mr. Gailey's done all the installation of the 10 previous historic community markers. So I'm confident that he can get this accomplished in a short period of time. The other thing, just as a footnote, as you know, when the Manchester Road Phase 3 streetscape started, we had to remove the Grover community marker. That's being reinstalled now.
It's same location.
Yes.
Okay.
I assume the commission would not want to alter it. It was a nice location, I think.
Yeah. Well, that was on the old city hall property. Do we still have authority to put it back there? I guess.
Yes, we own to the back edge of the sidewalk. So what we had done is we placed the community marker between the curb and the front edge of the sidewalk. So we were in right of way.
Okay. Sounds good. The next item we have is selection consultant interviews for Route 66 Park.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, per the direction of the membership, the Department of Planning notified the 3 selected firms of their selection and advised them of the date that the commission would like to hold interviews. The 3 firms were, as you can tell from the emails, very happy about being selected. And each of them, we were able to schedule each of them on the same night at different times. So as you can see, all 3 have been scheduled for the upcoming meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. We'll start with Gateway Design Studio, then move to SWT Design, and then conclude the evening with Great River Engineering. Along with that information, we were able to get some idea of who would be presenting on behalf of the firm or firm and team. And so that is also included in the information provided as part of the memorandum. The department took the liberty to provide a preliminary or draft set of steps that it would like to have the commission consider for conducting the interviews. That set of steps is on page 2 of the memorandum. And for the most part, it requires the chair to kind of open the interviews and conduct them from the standpoint of ensuring that we're timely in our process. and conclude hopefully a little ahead of the 45-minute time frame so that we can have time to kind of, I guess, have any preliminary comments, any thoughts, make sure we have everything fresh in our mind before we move to the next interview and then the following one. So hopefully what we've done is satisfactory. Mr. Chair, I'm open for any questions at this time.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, are we anticipating being able to meet as a group in the community room for the March meeting?
No, we were planning on doing Zoom, and we've advised the three firms that that's how the process would be conducted as well. The restriction from the St. Louis County Department of Public Health is still in place, no more than 10 people. And with the size of the commission and then not knowing exactly how many members of the firm or team associated with the proposal would be in attendance, we thought Zoom was the best approach.
Yeah, Jim, and that's the way it seems like a lot of these interviews are going. I'm doing one tomorrow. I don't have to drive over to Kansas City. I can do it on Zoom. So it works out pretty good, actually. And you can watch everybody's face. So as a consultant, they can see all our faces. Chris?
Yeah, so in the documents that are attached to the agenda, I apologize, I'm not sure. It looks like it was on page 4, where we've got each of the 3 design firms and their time slot allocated. There is a note in there. It says 30 minutes total for each firm, where I think where the times are allocated at 45. Is there?
Well, the thought is that each segment would be 45 minutes, that the firm would be provided 30 minutes to do their presentation, to identify their team members and their partners, to basically then tell us why they think they're uniquely qualified for this project. And then the final 15 minutes would be the Q&A by the commission.
Okay, is this? I would just add clarity in the prior part of the document. You say 20 to 25 minutes for the presentation and 20 for Q&A. And then I'm not sure, to be honest, what was included in the letter for each of those, but you may just, I don't know that it really matters, but I feel like you could update that just to say 45.
I shall. Thank you for catching that.
Just like we alluded to it earlier, Jan, you'll be taking the lead role on this thing. So where it says the chair, you get to do that role.
Oh, alrighty.
So do you need a motion on this process, Joe? Or are we good?
I just think I wanted more to just make sure you were all comfortable with it. I don't think it needs a motion. And I do appreciate the input from Commission Member Hammond. We'll make sure that the 3 teams understand the parameters. There's no confusion.
Okay. How will this work? We're going to be on Zoom, and other people can look in on this. How can the 3 firms be let in and and not see the other people's interview?
Will be live streamed, right, Joe?
I don't know. There's nothing in state statute or local code that requires that we record or live stream the meetings. We just do it as a matter of policy by city council action. So typically with interviews, we don't do that.
Okay.
We may record more so that if a member of the commission isn't available, they can review the recording and see the firm's presentation and then the questions that follow. In terms of providing the privacy between the interviews, Mr. Newberry and I had discussed this briefly, and what we're thinking about doing is giving each firm a unique access code, and that would be the same for you. So we'll conclude the webinar, then restart the webinar, And that way we can ensure that the other firm isn't lingering in the attendees column listening.
So as far as the public goes, that's going to be at the very start of the meeting, correct, Joe?
Yes.
So are we going to put that that hour and a half, I guess, and start the actual, that's the only thing on our agenda though, right?
Other than if I have the bid back or bids back on the community marker, I may sneak that in on the agenda as well.
Like at the end, so we can tell people that, hey, the meeting starts at 8 o'clock or a little bit after or something like that.
Well, quite frankly, I don't have a problem with letting the public be an attendee. It's just the other firms, as Mr. Scott has identified, I don't want them necessarily to have an advantage over the one that goes before them.
Okay, yeah, and then they'll just have a code that they will shut it down and restart it every time.
Yep.
Okay.
But the fact that it's recorded, I think that should be put on your web. So
Well,
I would say other people.
we're not going to
anybody-
record it, right, Joe? We're not recording these.
We have on occasion when, for example, when we were engaging a firm for the Village Green, many of the council members couldn't make the final interviews. And so we recorded them and made them available to those council members that could not attend. So I think it's at your all's discretion. The recording wouldn't be posted till after the interviews. So there wouldn't be an opportunity for corrections, so to speak, or I think we wouldn't want to provide an opportunity for corrections.
Well, I'm still a little uncomfortable posting it anyway, because it's as far as, somebody go watching back at somebody else's interview, that'd be a little awkward, I would say.
Then if it's the consensus of the commission, we won't record and we won't live stream.
I'm more comfortable, well, not that I'm going to be leading it, but I'd be more comfortable with that personally. But that was your concern, right, Steve, as far as just recording?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I would be concerned if it wasn't available to everybody afterwards, but that's up to everybody else's opinion. I kind of think it should be recorded just for record.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion we should record it. I'm okay if we don't allow the other interviewees to watch the sessions before them. But I feel like just from a public records perspective, the interviews are fair game after the fact. If you're just not exposing to the other potential vendors the during the process. I mean, I don't know. I feel like any firm that's presenting to a city in a public bid is fair game to be recorded and then put online for archival purposes.
Well, usually it's not like that, Chris. Interviews, I don't go into an interview and have the whole public sitting out in the audience watching me. So it's always.
If we were meeting in person, would we not do the same? We'd just ask the presenters to sit out of the other presentations in a public meeting. Not that people actually come to our meetings, but they could.
No, that's still not the way that I've ever been experienced. Well, one time, and that was the worst experience I ever had as a consultant. So I would never do that again.
No, they should not see their competitors' interviews. However, I
No,
do
but
think
even the public being in an interview, I've never been in an interview when it's with it like that either.
Well, the intent with the public would be they be as an attendee and they would not be allowed to participate. So they could watch and listen, but we would not open it for public comment.
Well, I'll let everybody do what they want because I'm going to recuse myself anyway. So it's at your discretion, everybody.
yeah, I
Is Young
don't care if it's
run
public.
this? Has John Young been approached on this?
Well, we've held number of interviews via Zoom of late. Obviously, we're going on a year. And again, like I say, there is no requirement, statute or code or law. So the intent would be, as I stated earlier, to record it in the event commission members can attend and would like to hear the presentations and then the Q&A by the commission members, but not to live stream it. Because again, the other firm could be outside watching the live stream, and that's not how we wanted to proceed. That's just not how we wanted to proceed forward.
I agree.
So it's the general agreement is that it will be recorded but not live streamed.
Sounds like it.
Okay,
I think that's what we should do.
Okay.
thank you.
And
Yeah, even if, sorry, Joe, even if it's just recorded and not put online afterwards, the recording's available if anyone who can't attend wants to go back and watch that recording.
Right.
I think that's acceptable.
I think it's also important that there for a record, if somebody comes in and complains that we gave it to a firm that said absolutely nothing in their interview, and go back and prove that they did or they didn't. So I think it's good to have a record of what they said.
And with the permission of the commission, we'll advise the firms that we intend on recording it. And if they choose not to participate, then the decision's obviously theirs, not ours.
Okay. I'm not going to comment on that, but I would decline personally, but that's just me.
Well, it's an unusual year. Obviously, if we weren't in a pandemic and using Zoom webinar, we wouldn't have this discussion. So hopefully there's some flexibility on their part. And if not, certainly we understand. We'll conduct, if there's only two firms, we'll conduct the two interviews, and then we can talk to the commission about bringing in another firm at the next meeting if we choose. So it's all good. We have the flexibility. There's no rush on this. We'd like to get it started, but there's no rush.
Okay, so our next time, so are we done with that, Joe?
Yes, so we have the schedule. I'll make sure per Commission Member Hammond's suggestion that the three firms are clear, that they have up to 30 minutes and then 15 minutes of Q&A that will follow. And then we'll also advise them that we're recording the meeting for the purposes of any commission member that isn't in attendance. Thank you all.
That's good.
Thank you.
Third item is a discussion regarding Champions of History program. And this is a little more in depth, right, Joe?
Yes, it is. And again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, as you know, over the last year plus period of time, the commission has been considering a program for memorial tributes. This program kind of came out of a very tragic and sad event that occurred to a friend of Wildwood and the former president of the Wildwood Historical Society, Lisa Kelp. After her untimely passing, there was a desire on the part of the commission to do something in memory of her, just because of her role at the Historical Society, a person that had kind of bridged the gap between the private organization and the public commission, this commission, and again, just because of her longevity in the Wildwood area. As we worked through it, there became a desire not only just to recognize Ms. Kelp, but many others over the years that have been integral in fostering historic preservation, both on the public side and the private side. And ultimately, the department presented to the commission the table that is at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3 of the memorandum. And ultimately what was proposed was 3 levels. Champions of Conservancy, Sustaining Members, and Guardians of History. And there were 2 components to each of those 3 categories, the public side and the private side. And depending on the qualifications or the criteria, certain things would be done to recognize that contribution to Wildwood's history and its preservation. This was presented in what the department believed was, for the most part, final form in September of 2020. And at that time, there were basically 2 questions that were raised by the commission. And those 2 questions can be summarized as follows. The first was just concerns about the naming of certain things or the recognition of certain people and potential moral issues that might follow relative to that individual. Obviously, we all know over the course of the last several years, things have come out about people that have had things named for them that certainly has created problems. And then there's been also just the issue of our history and how we recognize certain portions of our past history relative to the Civil War, etc. And so the charge that was given to the Department of Planning was just to contact St. Louis County and see how they address this, if they do, and also to find out if there is any similar programs or how other programs address this matter. The second component was just, I think, addressed at the meeting, and I just want to touch upon it briefly. And that was the concern that if we're doing it here at the Historic Preservation Commission, are we going to create any hard feelings relative to the other city commissions, boards, committees, etc.? And the department's response at that time was, it's appropriate to start here because in many regards, as I've mentioned, history is not an easy thing. If you're doing something in terms of restoring or refurbishing an old building, you're doing it as a labor of love because in many instances, it's easier to take it down than to preserve it. And oftentimes, preservationists work in the shadows because it's not necessarily flashy work, trying to convince people to do this or to do that, or to spend long hours in a library looking at old newspaper articles or books from decades ago. So I just think it's an opportunity to do recognition for a group that needs it. And also it could become the template for the future. Now, going back to the first item, in the memorandum, Kathy, before she left, and I have contacted both the State Historic Preservation Office, St. Louis County, and then did a internet search just to see how other communities might handle it. The response from the State Historic Preservation Office was they think it's a great idea. They don't know of any other communities that may be doing it to the degree we're proposing, and then provided some resources to do additional research, which the department did follow through and complete. The historian at St. Louis County said that they recognize buildings, the Historic Building Commission, and oftentimes she was not too clear if they have a standard or not. The individual had worked for the state of North Dakota, and they said when they were doing any naming in the state of North Dakota, if it was a deceased person, they would wait 10 years before proceeding forward. So a waiting period, so to speak. And in the information from South Carolina and the foundation, they, for the most part, didn't really make any mention of moral character, but certainly focused on what the contributions of that individual was to either a project or his preservation effort. So in summary, I like to stick with what the State Historic Preservation Office started with. It's a great idea. And I also noted in the memorandum, we're not naming a structure. We're not naming a building. We're not naming a road. We're not naming a park. We're looking at giving a tree, a paver, a proclamation, something on our website, etc. And so I think the scale is important to recognize here. They're local people that have been in the community probably for years, if not decades or more. We're doing it on what I think is an appropriate scale for the city of Wildwood. And anything that would ultimately be beyond that, the naming of a street, naming of a building, naming of a structure, that would be at the city council's discretion, not this commission. So I think concerns about the character of the nominees is important, but I'm going to guess that if someone is nominated, let's say Elisa Kelp, most of you have had firsthand experience with her, know her husband, Tom, know their children, know something about the company, have worked with them on projects, etc. So from that perspective, I think you'll be the best gauges of who should be or who shouldn't be, and if their nomination is appropriate or not. So with that, Mr. Chair, hopefully the department has addressed your questions from the last meeting, but the department believes we've got a good program here and would like to proceed forward with it with the commission's support. Thank you.
Any questions? So as far, I got one question, Joe, as far as process go, are we going to include all the voting members of this commission in the review of the people that are nominated, or will we have a subcommittee of this group that would do some screening and then bring it to the bigger group?
I actually think this is a fun task. And so I would argue for all of you to participate.
Okay, so just so everybody understands that the process will be, we're all going to be involved in this and review the nominations and discuss it, act on it.
We're not that big. I've been watching these committee interviews on TV at the federal level, and it's a little bigger than us. But I think we can handle it.
That's the will.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to move forward with this program.
I'll make that motion. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Okay, Jim, and then Steve, second.
I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have a program.
Thank you all very much. And again, I don't think you get told this enough. We started with something that was okay. And through your efforts and comments, I think we have something that's pretty special now. So from the department's perspective, I just want to thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and thanks Joe for getting this together.
You're welcome.
The last item is we got an update on the 2021 work program. We're moving right along, aren't we?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chair, I'm only going to highlight the items that have been identified in the red font, because those are updates I think that I'd like you to at least know about. And if you have any questions, please ask them. I was hoping tonight to have actually 2 or 3 bids for the improvements, repairs, so to speak, at Old Pond School. With Kathy's departure, my schedule's become a little bit less under my control than I had hoped. But we do have 1 bid for the painting of the soffits and fascia boards down at Old Pond School, and some interior repair work where we're getting a little water damage. I hope to have, if not 1, but 2 more for the April meeting, and then we'll proceed forward. What I hope to do is have you select one of the bids as the best under your all's opinion, and then I will take that bid to City Council for action. In terms of the historical survey, the surveys themselves, the field work associated with them has been completed by the city's consultant. She has advised Kathy, and Kathy then advised me that with COVID-19, some of the research facilities that she would like to visit to do some verification are not available right now. They're not open. Most of the people there are working from home. She did apologize, but the good news is the field work's complete. So I would suspect that we'll have something either in April or May for your review. If we follow the typical process, we'll have the individual, the lady here with us to kind of go through them individually to whatever detail the commission should choose. And then once we have what we believe is a final draft of the surveys, we typically send them out to the property owners, ask for comments. And then once we receive comments, if any, then we host an open house. We may have to do that over Zoom, I don't know. But eventually we like to get them all together and let them meet each other, talk about their properties, and from there, complete it. In the past, this has always been a time where we have root beer floats, sweets, little snacks, things like that. I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but like I say, we're making progress and just wanted to advise you why there's been a bit of delay. The proverbial COVID-19. We did just talk about the placement of the last of the community markers. Also, we just completed our discussion about the 3 firms that we'll interview at our March meeting. And also, we now have a memorial tribute program. The department hopes that at the April meeting, given our March meeting is full with the interviews, to begin the discussion and get important feedback from the commission members about the time capsule for the Missouri Bicentennial celebration. As you know, Kathy introduced this to you all at the January meeting. I believe Commissioner Scott had something about maybe showing a photo of an old building and the building now, and potentially showing an old building and an empty field now, kind of giving that warning that, hey, if you don't pay attention, here's what can happen. So I just want to delve a little bit deeper into that. The Bicentennial Commission has provided criteria, and so I want to kind of kick that off so we can get that done maybe as quickly as possible. So that's one of the items. And then finally, on the last page, we are in the process of scheduling our training sessions. As you know, we talked about having Dennis Hogan from the St. Louis County Department of Parks and Recreation. He is kind of the parks historian for facilities. And I think it'd be interesting for him to come. He knows a great deal about Bluffview Park on Old State Road, its past history. I think it'll be a real enjoyable opportunity. We're going to have representatives from the Wildwood Historical Society. It's been a while since we've had the presentation from them about what's available in the museum, their research capabilities. And we have enough new members that I think it'd be nice that you all get to meet them and vice versa. We're also reaching out to Babbler State Park to see if we can have someone from there come and speak about the facility, its history in terms of a donation. Some of it's ups, some of it's downs, etc. So we're in process, I guess is what I'm saying. And we also have the one online opportunity relative to Main Streets. And I think we've provided that link. If not, that's certainly something we can do. And you can do that hopefully at your leisure. So we have a lot underway. We have a busy schedule for the spring. And as you know, we are still hoping to have a Celebrate Wildwood event at the end of September. So sometime in the summer, we'll start shifting gears to the points of interest map, the final chapter in the incorporation to complete the Wildwood history book, and then our participation at the event as well as we've done in the past. And those that have worked the Celebrate Wildwood event, particularly in 2019. I think you'll recall it was kind of a fun event. A lot of people came by and saw our displays. We were across the aisle from the Wildwood Historical Society. So it was just a fun day, I thought. And hopefully September, we can have that event and we can participate. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll conclude. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to respond to them. Thank you.
Hey, anybody have any questions for Joe? That's, I mean, we're rolling on a lot of the items. So, and I just want to thank Teresa showed up here before, and we got Joe Giratano attending too. So thanks for being here, Joe.
Yeah, it's good to stop in and say hi. I apologize. I just haven't been able to stop by before, but I was watching the last meeting and I thought, well, tonight I'm sitting here. I'm going to stop in and say hello. So good to see you.
And
Thank
Paul,
you.
thank you for noticing that I made it. I was late, but I apologize for that.
Well, thanks for taking the time to be here. Yeah, so hey, Joe, we ought to just have a special council guest every once in a while, in addition to Teresa, and have somebody just pop in on us. So that's good. So that's about it for our agenda for tonight. That's pretty quick.
Can I
I do
say
have,
one thing?
and I've got something after Mr. Scott as well.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Scott?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing. The Wildwood Historical Society, because of COVID, they have not had their normal fundraisers and get-togethers and things they do to raise money. They right now are in debt and are hurting for money and are seeking donations. So we got an email from them. So if anybody else wants to consider it, please. They're hurting for money and your donations are tax deductible.
Yeah, so they're looking for donations or buy their books or whatever you can do to help. And I was there's plenty of good books out there. The Schoolhouse's book was really a good read. We got a Roadway book that I'm thinking of too. So they were asking to buy some of the books they've published, or of course any donation helps.
So I had two questions. One, well, I guess they're both kind of relevant right now. First one for Joe is, what was the outcome of the Architectural Review Committee with the station over off a pond in Old Manchester? I actually started to watch the video and I made it right up, I think, until about the decision, and then I had to run. So I was just curious where that went.
The Architectural Review Board probably took less than 20 minutes to approve the design. The overarching comment from at least two of the members of the board was, if the Historic Preservation Commission is fine with it, so are we. And so I understand that from our economic development manager, Julian Jacqueline, the contract has been signed. There's some other contingencies beyond what we were involved in as the commission and the Architectural Review Board, but it seems all positive right now.
And then the other one, thank you for that. The other one is just a ask for a quick update on kind of progress with the Village Green. Councilman Giratano posted some great pictures and photos or some mock-ups that I online recently that I noticed, and I was just curious. Obviously didn't see the Essen log cabin in any of those, but I'd be curious to see what's the status right now of the Village Green.
Well, I think Mr. Giratano had the best presentation at the meeting Tuesday night when he said that if the observation tower is constructed, you can see all of the other wards from Ward 8. So I think he was referencing as kind of the center of the universe. So all kidding aside, if you want to see what would I consider the preliminary draft of the Village Green and the components associated with it, if you go to the city's website and find the Planning and Parks Committee meeting from February 23rd and click on the link under that particular agenda item, you can see it. So to answer your question, Commissioner Hammond, the Parks and Planning Committee of, the Planning and Parks Committee of City Council authorized the final phase of public input to proceed. And so what that will entail is a short survey relative to the images that were provided, some additional opportunities for comment. We're going to use social media, the website, and hopefully be as successful as we were in the first two phases of public input. The first phase, we had over 600 participants. The second phase, over 220 participants. And so we've done very well. We're ranging now almost, again, to 900 comments relative to the Village Green. So I'm hoping we'll go over 1,000, which would be the most we've ever received. It's a versatile space, but I think it holds true to the principles of Wildwood in that it's a very passive area, while offering some active zones for large events, for child play, and it has finally something that a lot of people have asked for, a spray garden, and so it's pretty exciting. And we'll roll all that out probably the end of March, early April.
Joe, what's your thoughts on completion?
It's an ambitious plan, so I think it's going to be done much like the community park in that there'll be phases. And quite frankly, I think it'll probably need a vote of the residents before we'll see its complete fruition. There is in our charter a requirement that when a project exceeds $3.5 million, the residents of Wildwood have to participate. And so the question becomes, do you do a couple of phases of it before you reach that limit? Or do you go to the voters first and just tell them what you'd like to do, get the approval, and then do the phases as funding becomes available?
If you go for a vote, do we usually wait for a standard election, or can you have a separate vote?
Well, I would defer probably to the council members for their opinions, but I know that in the past, there's been a hesitancy to put a tax or funding issue on the April ballot because there's an election of the council members for the wards. We've often used the November ballot because typically, particularly mid-year and national elections, there's a lot more people, and parks generally favor greater turnout.
Okay.
But like I say, I would defer to the council people and their opinions on that more so than mine.
What? Were you looking for an opinion here?
I'd love to hear what you all think, quite
All right.
frankly.
And let me make sure I'm answering your question correctly because I partially heard it. Is this pertaining to when it would be on the ballot, or if, or what?
More so, what's a good time to submit a request like that? Is it an April election? Is it November? Is it one of the special elections during the summer? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be helpful to have it during an election when you have good turnout, because if you do something like off cycle, which would, let's say, for example, an August election, we would end up having to pay more because that would be the only ballot item. So from a city cost perspective, we have to pay when we want to participate in an election. So it makes sense for us to piggyback off of either a municipal or another major election where there's already polling precincts operating. So to your point, Joe, I think you raise two good valid points there. If you do it in April, it's a tax item. The word tax, the connotation of it usually is not positive. So, people usually look to find out, well, who's putting this tax on us? And if that's done during an April municipal election, that could impact those that are in the candidates, those incumbents. I think that's my opinion. And certainly any opposition would use that for that reason. We've seen this in previous elections in Wildwood. So then November is a good time because that is generally the other election. There is a bill currently in Jefferson City. I don't have the bill number off the top of my head, but there is a movement to eliminate the April election so that municipal elections can only take place in November. Cities and municipalities are opposed to that bill because the ballot is already long enough in November, and it keeps municipal items focused just in April. But the Secretary of State, Ashcroft, he indicated that he would support that because he is concerned about just voter turnout and thinks if we just do it all in November, we'll have better turnout. So that bill right now just got passed in the committee of the House. It'll go to the House for a final and third reading. And then if that moves forward, then it goes to the Senate. So that could change the whole situation. And they don't have, I think, a timeline yet, but they certainly would want to implement it over time. So maybe potentially a 2022 item or beyond that. So that's my 2 cents, since you asked.
Thank you.
And Joe, thank you for taking the time to speak on the Village Green.
Sure. And thanks for providing the link. If you didn't notice, Commissioner Hammond put it down in the chat.
Yeah. And there's a lot there. I had not seen that. I've fallen away from this topic. I'm disappointed in myself, but it's got some great info out there. So.
Are we? Can I make a comment? I don't know if we're miscellaneous in the agenda, or well, actually, there is no miscellaneous. But I thought if I could, with the chairs, is the chair? Oh, did we lose
Lost the chair.
Well, I think he's on the telephone now. I brought him in. Can you hear us, Paul?
Oh.
Miss Stevens, would you mind stepping in?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Yeah, I thought
Thanks
this
for letting me in.
Well, I did have one comment. I'll just leave it there, and maybe just food for thought. When you talk about maybe the Route 66 proposal in the future. I just got a note this morning from a resident who had asked me if Wildwood had any intentions to dedicate a spot, sort of like a veterans memorial. And it's not the first time I've heard that request from residents. So the question I got was if the Village Green was including a veterans type memorial, which I'm not aware of at this time being in those plans. But Mr. Vunich, we did talk about maybe putting some kind of small, maybe a memorial potentially at the Route 66 park, area there. So again, just something to keep in the back of your mind, because there is a demand for folks to have something in Wildwood to recognize those veterans living and passed away that have served the country. So maybe the 66 location is a good one, or something else.
Well, with the permission of the chair, we've often talked about possibly doing something like that at Old Pond School as well.
Lost the chair.
Miss Stevens.
Yes.
You're the chair.
I'm the chair.
Hold on, I'm going to try to bring him back in.
Okay.
There I am.
There you are.
Hey,
I've been listening to all of it, but it's the first time it's ever booted me out of this thing. So yeah, feel free.
and I know I don't want to keep the meeting going. I know you're probably like, oh, we got out in less than an hour, but Mr. Garitano and I have also talked about along the new portion of Manchester Road, the streetscape, like during the 4th of July holiday, adding flags onto the light poles and things like that. And I just think that would be a nice, maybe the commission will bring something to you to endorse that, to help the discussion at city council. But I think it'd be really make it look like a true main street, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. So Joe, so what do you, I know we haven't had this discussion about a Veterans Memorial before, but I know a lot of other cities do a really fine job of that. And it's almost like it needs to be its own thing, as opposed to, added on to like the Route 66 roadside park, or it could be a section. And I'm not sure if any discussion came up in the Village Green discussions about something like that, but it needs to be its own focused area that's all by itself and thought of, like the Soldiers Memorial downtown, which is that was a great effort. And I know Manchester has a really good location, and Woodson Terrace has a really good Veterans Memorial. So that's something to think about in the future, I'd say, for sure.
So in terms of the two communities you mentioned, what makes their location a very positive location? Is it in a highly populated area? Is it along a major arterial? Mr. Hammond's adding that, community park might be an option. Ellisville's has theirs at Bluebird Park. We have Portner Park as an option as well, that 27 acres that doesn't have any designs on it, so to speak, at this time. So it's a good topic. If you like, we can put it on the agenda for a future meeting, April or May.
Well, we have a lot of things to locate, like the Essen Log Cabin still, and in this, there's a few things that we can talk about.
Certainly. The Essen Log Cabins just lost a little momentum after we had the architectural team in town to kind of see what we had. Kathy and I had presented to you some options about location. We kind of couldn't get a consensus, and we kept going back and forth between the potential here, potential there. Then we got onto the topic of what are we going to use it for? Is it just a kind of a standalone museum where you look from the outside in, or were we going to host events inside of it? So there's a lot of questions we need to answer, and then I think that'll lead to our conclusion about location. But don't worry, we'll get back to it.
Okay. Well, let's not lose this discussion on this this Veterans Memorial either. So,
Paul, at the Manchester one, that's the one there at the Sulphur Springs Road where that comes into Manchester with that little covered bridge. Is that where that is?
I
No,
don't think so.
I think it's on Henry.
On Henry, yes.
Okay, no, okay.
Strecker Park or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm thinking of something else. Okay, sorry.
Any other thoughts or ideas? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to
I will
end
make
the
a
meeting.
motion to end the February 25th meeting.
Chris motion, Dan second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks everybody.
And thanks for your patience.
Thank you, sir.
Get ready for a marathon next meeting though.